Boredom often gets a bad rap. It's thought of as being in a state of laziness or a weak mind. But I'm here to tell you at least one time, boredom changed the world. This was my first assignment with the Department of State as a communications officer. At 23 years old, I had only been out of the Marine Corps for about a year. So, of course, it was only natural that my first friends would be with the Marine security guards that are assigned to protect the embassies. This was at the American Embassy in Libreville, Gabon. So if you were to try and find Gabon on a map, you would find the equator, and where it hits the west side of the continent, that's Libreville, and that's Gabon, and that's rainforest. Always hot, always humid, thick jungle, wild elephants, gorillas, gazelles, panthers, vipers. It was like the Jungle Book with less singing. Libreville was a very small capital, and it was surrounded by the jungle on three sides and the ocean on the other. We, and when I say we, I mean Corporal Billy, Sergeant Todd, and myself, were bored and needing an adventure. Something fun that didn't involve our normal routine of going to the nightclubs and drinking, or going to the beach and drinking, or staying at the house and drinking. We wanted a different adventure. So we decided to go to the jungle and drink. USMC, Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. We took the hard roof off the Chevy Suburban. This was an embassy vehicle. I don't know if it was supposed to ever come off, but we got it off. And then we filled the cooler with a local beer called Regab. It came in these big green quart bottles. I always think of it as like the international Schlitz. We drove past the last military checkpoint into the jungle. We found a clearing. We stopped the Suburban, popped a Rolling Stones cassette in the boombox, and began drinking. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And that was us. We were having a great time. The sun was beating down, then a massive rainstorm, sun, massive rainstorm. And the entire time we were just rocking out, having a good time, until Billy wanted to see his girlfriend, his French girlfriend, Mary Lou. Now, Billy had this fantasy, not about Mary Lou. I mean, maybe he did, but that's not what I'm talking about. Billy had heard about these other Marines that were assigned to the embassy before him at some point in history, these legends who had jumped the wall to the Soviet embassy and stole their flag. He was obsessed with this idea. He thought it was the greatest thing ever. So he kept focusing on that. I mean, that was his thing. Well, we didn't know, Billy, we're not going to do that. Ever. I'm driving to Mary Lou's and in a residential neighborhood, and I'm not thinking about anything in the route. And I drive past the Soviet embassy. We were maybe 15 yards past it when Billy yells, "Stop, stop, stop." So I stopped the vehicle. He jumps out the back and runs to the front of the Soviet embassy and begins to urinate on a glass display case depicting Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. He was laughing and fire hosing all over the place. I just looked at Todd. I said, "Get him." So Todd hops out, runs after him. I put the truck in reverse so I could, a quicker getaway. They load up, and as I turn around, I see somebody coming out of the embassy. His name was probably Yuri, and he had a notebook and he was writing down our license plate number, our diplomatic license plate number. So we take off. Well, it's a pretty quiet drive, almost solemn, on the way back to the Marine House, kind of like we were driving to a funeral, our own funeral. Then Billy asks, and this is the voice I heard. "Do you think we're going to get in trouble?" I see his face in the rearview mirror as I'm driving. "Really, Billy? Really? Do I think we're going to get in trouble? You just peed all over the Russian embassy. They got our license plate. Do I think we're going to get in trouble?" "Yes, Billy, I think we're going to get in big trouble. I think best case scenario, you two get court-martialed. I get fired and have to go back to Huber Heights, Ohio, and work in a bowling alley spraying disinfectant in shoes for the rest of my life." "Yeah, Billy, we're going to be in trouble." The next day, we were called into the Deputy Chief of Missions office. Now, this is the DCM. The ambassador was out of country, so this becomes the top person at the embassy. And he was an Ivy Leaguer, a career foreign service. So the Soviet attaché informed me that one of our embassy vehicles was involved in some type of bodily fluid incident. Do you know anything about this? Well, we were busted. I mean, red-handed, the plate, we had signed out the vehicle, so it was all connected. So the only thing we could do is just lie our asses off. So immediately Billy started talking about how the Russians were always mad because the Marines got the flag. They hate us because we got their flag, and they're commies, and you can't trust commies. And then Todd went the mistaken identity route. Sir, it was probably the French that did it. Yeah, and they don't like America, so somehow they probably changed the plate number. And I'm looking at them like I just couldn't believe I was there. It was very surreal. But my story was no better. We didn't talk about this going in, so I'm like, my hat blew off, and I stopped the vehicle to get the hat, and that's probably what they saw, me picking up the hat. But no, we didn't do anything. So we're walking out, and he says, well, I don't think this is over. We get into the hallway. The three of us are standing there. And again, Billy, do you think he believed us? Really, Billy? Really? Do I think he believed us? No, no, he didn't believe us, you freaking idiot. The next day, the US ambassador returned into country, and we were called into his office. While I was a civilian then, I still locked at full attention while he yelled at us for what seemed like hours. Heels together, eyes straight ahead. This could have ended all of our careers like that. We would have been on the next plane out of the country. But this ambassador was a little different than most. While he may have gone through Ivy League schools, he may have gone to Princeton or Harvard or Yale, he started out at the age of 18 as an enlisted United States Marine. So he understood young and dumb, and he understood second chances. So he gave us that second chance. And with the diplomatic note citing the unfortunate incident, the People's Republic of the Soviet Union was the end of it. Now, when the Berlin Wall fell a few years later, millions of people watched it live on TV. I was one of them. Now, I can't say 100% for sure, but I'm pretty sure I saw Billy there among the revelers. I can't help but think maybe the Soviet embassy wall in Africa was just a dry run. Well, not a dry run, but for Billy, for something much bigger. In fact, I'm certain Corporal Billy paved the path to freedom for all those Eastern Europeans, and I got to be part of it. You're welcome, world.